Hello and welcome to another YouTube video. Today's video is going to be going through all of the books on my physical TBR. There are a lot of them. This is going to be a long video, so grab yourself some tea and let's get started. Just a quick note, I have divided this into young adult and adult books. That's it. I feel like any more categorization would get confusing, so the first part of the video will be young adult and the second half will be adult books. I have quite a few books here for the young adult category. The first books I want to talk about are the first two books in the Guinevere Deception. I don't actually know the name of the actual series, but I have the first two books, which is the Guinevere Deception and then the Camelot Betrayal. I've heard this is a really great retelling of the Legends of King Arthur, which I love. I've always loved the Legends of King Arthur. I've studied it. I love it. And I've also heard it's got some LGBTQ representation, which I love to see. And honestly, I was really drawn to it because of the covers. I mean, look how gorgeous, right? So yeah, I don't know when I'm going to pick these up, but they are on my TBR and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, those are the first two books. Next, we have the first book in a series, and that is Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. Basically an all-female pirate ship. It's got sapphic representation, and it just honestly sounds like a good time. So I am really excited to read this. Don't know when I will get to it because I am snowed under with advanced reader copies right now. But I hope to get to this very soon. Next up, we have The Midnight Lie by Marie Rudkowski. I've heard so many good things about this one. It's sapphic, it's high fantasy. What more could I want, right? Next one's a little bit of a different one for me. The Good Girls by Claire Eliza Bartlett. This is, I think it's some kind of like murder, thriller, mystery story. My girlfriend bought this one for me, and I'm really excited to read it because I don't really read a lot of books like this. So I'm really excited to kind of expand my reading genre. And I've also heard that it's sapphic, so, you know, it's the perfect mix. Next, we have one that's actually been on my TBR since I started reading again last year. I saw this one on TikTok and the cover just drew me in. And that is Music from Another World by Robin Talley. I actually want to read and collect all of Robin Talley's books. She writes a lot of really amazing sapphic, lesbian, historical fiction. And again, that cover, hello. And this is set during the fight for gay rights around the time of Stonewall. And honestly, I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I don't really have an excuse as to why I haven't read it yet. So I definitely need to read this one this year. Next, we have another sapphic lesbian historical fiction novel, and that is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lo. Malinda Lo is a powerhouse of lesbian fiction. She has written so many. In fact, I believe Ash is one of like the more older young adult lesbian fantasy novels out there. I think it was published in 2007. And I've heard so many good things about this one, so I definitely need to read it, especially since there is not a sequel, but a spin-off novel that I heard is coming out, and I'm really excited for it because it sounds amazing. So definitely gonna get to this one this year. Next up, we have Witches Steeped in Gold by Shannon Smart. Look at that cover, you guys. It's beautiful. I'm really excited to read this one. It's got witches, it's fantasy. You know, what more could I want? My girlfriend got this for me for Christmas. And I haven't had a chance to read it yet because I, again, have just had so many books that I had to get read and reviewed and all that kind of stuff. But this is one that I am determined to get to this year, especially since the sequel is coming out and the sequel looks fantastic. So I better get this one read before someone accidentally spoils me because I hate spoilers. But again, this is a nice chunky novel. Samantha Shannon recommended it on the back, so definitely gonna try and get to this one this year. Next, we have like an enemies to lovers sapphic book, and that is Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley. I just started today her new book that's coming out, Sophie and the Bone Song, and I haven't read this one yet, so I need to get this one read. Enemies to lovers and witches. It's literally my MO. That's all you need for me to get to read a book is witches and enemies to lovers, and also sapphic. Next, we have The Coldest Touch by Isabel Sterling. I read and really enjoyed These Witches Don't Burn. I actually haven't finished that duology yet, but I read it. It was part of my getting back into reading, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I picked this one up. It's Sapphic Vampires. Sapphic vampires have a very special place in my heart. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this one. Next up, we have Going Viral by Katie Kook, I think. I probably butchered that name. This is just a random novel that I picked up because it is sapphic and is also set during the pandemic with long distance dating. So I figured, why not give it a chance? It's very short. It probably won't take me long to read. Next up, we have an anthology, and that is Meet Cute. Some of the authors are Katie Cotugno, Nina LaCour, Cass Morgan, Julie Murphy, Nicola Yoon, and this is just a young adult anthology of really meet cute stories. There's trans representation, sapphic representation. I'm just really excited to read it. It looks really nice and cute, and it's also not that long either, so I feel like it's kind of like the perfect pick-me-up for a day where I'm not feeling so great. And a book that is the complete opposite of the last one is The Meaning of Birds by J. Robin Brown. I have heard from a couple different people that this book is going to make me bawl my eyes out. And there is nothing I love more than a sapphic lesbian book that makes me bawl my eyes out. I got this last year, haven't read it yet, but I mean, that cover is gorgeous. It's what actually drew me to it in the first place. But yeah, really excited to read this one and have my heart broken. Okay, and those are all the young adult books on my physical TBR, so let's get into the adult book. So first, I guess I'm going to do adult fantasy. That's just the way my bookshelves are ordered. And so first up, we have Malice by Heather Walter. Obviously, this is a sapphic classic at this point. And I am very disappointed in myself that I have not read it yet, especially since the sequel is coming out in like a month or two, so I have to get on this. Next up, I have the first two books in the Scholomance series by Naomi Novik, Dark Academia, Magicians. I am dying to read this, and it's not super long either, so hopefully I can get to this very soon. Next up, Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho. Asian lesbian representation. It's got magic, I think. I don't know. All I knew is that this book looked super cool, and I'm really excited to read it. Hopefully I can get to it soon. Lesbian Orc Assassin. Cults. Need I say more? I can't wait to read this one. I love any book that is like this one, which is why I picked it up, and that is The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry. It sounds steampunky. It sounds like historical fiction with magic. What more could I want? It's also lesbian. Amazing. This is one that my girlfriend got for me, and that's The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I've heard there's all kinds of LGBT representation in this, plus, you know, suffragette witches. This has my heart. She's chunky. It's a chunky book. We love it. I cannot wait to read this one. I know I say that about like every book, but genuinely cannot wait to read it. Next up is a booktube / book talk darling, and that is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is a hefty book. It may not look hefty, but I'm holding it in my hand, and this is easily one of the heaviest books in this entire pile. This is packing some weight behind it. Honestly, I have no idea what this book is about. Absolutely none. But I've heard the vibes are great, which is why I picked it up. So yeah, definitely gonna read this one. Hopefully I love the vibes. And would I even be a lesbian book nerd if Priory of the Orange Tree wasn't on this list? Hello, this is kind of obligatory. I'm very excited to read this one. I have no idea when I'm going to get to it because this book is literally insanely big. But hopefully soon. I want to read this in 2022, but I mean, looking at the number of books that have been on this list that I say that I really want to get to soon, doesn't look like it's going to be likely. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'll surprise myself. Maybe I'll actually pull my socks up and read this book. Next up is a book in a series that I have technically already read, but I'm working on a reread, and that is the second book in the Wheel of Time. I love this series. I never actually quite finished the series. I got to about book 11, and then I had my massive, like, multi-year book, like, burnout where I couldn't read anything. Book slump, that was the word I was looking for. So I completely forgot a lot that happened in this series, and I always really wanted to finish it. It was kind of those things that was just loose ends, you know? I hate leaving a series unfinished. And with the series coming out, or the TV show coming out, I figured now was the perfect time to pick the series back up again, buy myself some new copies. I love how floppy these books are. Isn't that amazing? And reread the series. So I am planning to reread book 2 before season 2 of the show comes out, which I think is going to be either at the end of this year or early next year. I hope, anyway. So yeah, definitely reading this one this year, but not yet. I have other books to read. Next, we have The All-Consuming World by Cassandra Khaw. This is a queer, Profane and Gorgeous, the angry queer space opera you've been waiting for. I got this when I was working at a bookstore. I knew nothing about it. I'd never even heard of it. And then I read that little blurb right there, and I was like, angry queer space opera? Sign me up! And I immediately purchased it the same day. It's not a very long book, so hopefully, you know, I can fly through this one this year, because honestly, it sounds like something I would love. And finally, we have some romance and literary fiction. First up is Satisfaction Guaranteed. 2 lesbians have to work together in a sex shop. There's butch representation. It sounds really steamy and fun. I love a good lesbian sapphic romance. I have an entire stack, that stack right there, which is where this came from. So yeah, I'm just really excited to read this one. Next up is one you've probably seen around, and that is Read Between the Lines by Rachel Lacey. The second book in this series actually just came out, I believe yesterday or today. 2 rivals have to work in a bookshop together. There's a theme going on here. This sounds amazing, so I cannot wait to read it. And you have definitely heard of the next one, unless you've been living under a rock, in which case, no worries, take your time. You know, the rock is comfortable. And that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I can't wait to read this. I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I have no excuses. But yeah, this one is super cute. It's got bisexual rep, it's got lesbian rep. It's super cute. I don't think it's enemies to lovers, but they definitely don't like each other in the beginning, at least I've been told. And now I'm just realizing that I have enough, like, sapphic romances that I should do a sapphic romance readathon. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe. Possibly. No promises. Except we have some, like, historical fiction / literary fiction. I'm not really sure where some of these books lie. The first one is Daughters of the Deer by Danielle Daniel. This is slightly historical fiction, but I also believe it falls under the literary fiction category. I'm not entirely sure. But I picked this up immediately when I heard what it was about. Basically, it's about an indigenous woman who, for the safety of her tribe, is forced to marry a colonizer, a white man. And, you know, they have a kid, a daughter, and all this kind of stuff. And the daughter is Métis. And the daughter's also Two-Spirit, but because of the time period, you know, and living in a white colonized society, she is not accepted for that. Whereas if she had been living with her indigenous peoples, you know, her indigenous family, she would have been accepted for it. I've heard this is a beautiful, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching book. I'm really excited to read it. I've never read a book with Two-Spirit representation. So if you were looking for a book with Two-Spirit representation, definitely go check this one out. I haven't read it yet, so I'm not sure about the writing and all that kind of stuff, but I've heard a lot of praise for this book, so I can only think good things about it. So hopefully this year, this one is a must-read for me. The next book is definitely literary fiction, and that is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. This is a must-read for me this year because this deals with lesbianism and Catholic trauma, and that is me to a T. So much lesbianism, so much Catholic trauma. And also a lot of anxiety rep, and I have severe anxiety, like it's really, really bad. So I'm really excited to read this one and just kind of just feel seen by this book. Yeah, so hopefully this year I'll get to this one. And the last book on my physical TBR is 5 Little Indians by Michelle Good. I have heard so many amazing things about this book. This is historical / literary fiction, but not really fiction, because this book is about the residential schools in Canada, and a lot of the things, most of the things that happen in this book, as far as I know, are based on things that happened in real life, unfortunately. So I don't feel comfortable using the word fiction. I mean, the characters are definitely fictionalized, but the settings, the abuse, the events definitely are pulled from real life, and therefore I'm just not going to use the word fiction for this book. It's historical / literary book. But I am really, really excited to read this one. This is probably one of my most, like, top priority books to read this year. So yeah. And that is my entire physical TBR. If this video has taught me anything, it is that I have a book buying problem. I have so many books and not enough time. And also clearly spending more money than I should. Can't really make any excuses for myself, but hopefully you enjoyed watching this video, you got some good book recommendations, and just enjoyed seeing my stupid book collection. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.